Hey everyone, thank you for meeting me here for my almost 3.5 year vegan update. I went vegan beginning of April 2016. If you didn't see any of my other videos, basically I woke up with an invisible bowling ball on my chest and went vegan. Or technically plant-based, but then I became vegan. Anyway, so what's happened in the last 1.5 years has been a lot. And so I have some cue cards in order so that I don't mess up, get things mixed up. Because there's a lot to talk about. Some really good stuff, some bad stuff. Spoiler alert, I'm still vegan and I'm still really happy. But anyway, so let's start where I left off. Basically, in June of last year, June 2018, we moved. And the first night in the new place, at like 3 a.m., I, in the dark, went to go run up the stairs. I thought my daughter needed me. And I wound up kicking my right foot against this sort of raised area right before the stairs, which is technically one stair, but it's like the entryway. I mean, honestly, I don't know what anybody was thinking designing a house like that, but yeah, it wasn't in my muscle memory to step up, so whammo, I slammed it really hard. Now, I'm bringing this up because it will come into play with something I took out of my diet and then a change I noticed in my health. So anyway, my foot blew up like a balloon. It was really bad. It went down slowly, I guess normally, but it didn't quite heal all the way. And I used a little cane. I didn't need to use it all the time after a couple months, but if I was walking a really big distance on concrete, I would use it. But then a couple things happened in September. So it was the June move. So beginning of September, so a little more technically than a year ago, I started reading The Plant Paradox, and that has been a big focus of my dietary veganism. And I'm going to come back and forth to that. I may even do just a separate book review. And if there are any vegans that want to sort of link what Dr. Greger thinks negatively about this book, I'm just going to save you the trouble. I don't think you read the book. I don't think you read the book. I think he got to a certain part and then stopped and said, it doesn't pass the whip test, and I don't think you read the book. Anyway, so I started The Plant Paradox, and it was a lot of information to take in. And my weight had been coming down very slowly ever since I started veganism. I mean, slowly, but steadily. But when I started doing The Plant Paradox, I was dropping weight like it was hot. I mean, like 2 pounds a week. And if you're almost 50, which I am now 50, and you start losing weight really fast, it can be not a good sign. So anyway, I got a little worried, but it eventually stabilized after a couple months. I lost about 15 extra pounds. So total, I was about 75 pounds from my heaviest weight from a few years ago. And again, like last time, I'm not hashtagging this weight loss or anything like that. I don't want to trigger anybody or give anybody the wrong impression of why I became vegan. I think that weight loss, if you are obese like I was, is just a natural part of your body getting back to normal. But it did steady, and I did have some blood tests, and they were fine. At least they didn't show anything really wrong. But at the end of September, my daughter had a blood test, and she showed a slight allergy to gluten. So I took gluten out of her diet, which is typical. It can be typical for people on the autism spectrum to have gluten taken out of their diet, gluten-free, casein-free diet, GFCF diet. That is quite common. And we used to do it years ago, but we stopped. And I thought she wasn't allergic anymore, but turns out she was. And the reason I'm bringing this all up, because it ties back into my foot, is that when she went gluten-free, I, by default, also went gluten-free because I eat what she eats. And after 1 or 2 days of going gluten-free, I didn't need my cane anymore to walk. My foot pain has subsided enough. And about a month or two of not going, of not eating grains, basically, gluten-free, like no wheat, and as much as possible, like, you know, none of those other grains that have some gluten in. I took those out as well, mostly. But after a month or two of that, I didn't have any more foot pain. And honestly, foot pain was just something I have lived with for years, and I thought, well, that's just what happens when you get older. It's happening to everybody I know. Everybody I know wears orthotics, and you know, my friend, her 20-year-old son wears orthotics. There's no shame in it, and I just thought it was normal. But I'm here to tell you, it's not normal. It doesn't have to be your normal. Also, this is the part where I put in the disclaimer. This video, I'm not trying to tell anybody what to do. I share these updates and I share my story just in case, well, maybe I can help you, or maybe you'll see something you can talk to your doctor about, or, but ultimately this story, my journey, it's about me. It's not about you. It's about me, 100%. If I can help anybody with it, that's great. That's my goal of why I do these videos and put them on YouTube. Ultimately, is to have a record of something I've gone through that maybe can help someone. Okay, that being said, so no more foot pain, which is good. So I'll get that later. So yeah, so that happened. That was between like September, October, November. So by November, I was, you know, dancing and doing all kinds of fun stuff. So, all right, now I mentioned I started the plant paradox. Now, what did that mean for me? Well, a lot less fruit. I eat a lot less fruit. I do eat some fruit still, and I do enjoy fruit. But I don't eat fruit that's swole, and I got to tell you, some of the fruit that is showing up in supermarkets is scary. I mean, there was an apricot that was like, I mean, literally it was just like the size of a small, it was practically the size of a small tennis ball. I mean, it was crazy. It was like 4 times the normal amount. And I know that to be true because when growing up, I used to have an apricot tree at my house, and they were nowhere near as big as they are now. Nowhere near as big. So yeah, I mean, and grapes, and the fruit is so big now. It's not, it's not healthy. I don't think it's healthy. I don't think it's healthy to have that much sugar all the time. I don't. Anyway, so, oh, also vitamin D. I'm upping my vitamin D. I started at like 5,000 international units, which is what Dr. Gundry says that everybody can take. And seems to be okay. I know the tolerable upper level intake is supposed to be like 4,000. I haven't had a problem with 5,000. Now, I tried 10,000 for a few days and I stopped because the 3 days that I tried it, I got these weird pains like right here, very not normal. I didn't like it. It was very scary. So I stopped it, and they haven't come back. I didn't have them before I took the 10,000, and I didn't have them afterwards, only during. So I'm not going to repeat that as an experiment. I'll take 5,000, that's fine. I did several months of 5,000, and it upped my blood level of vitamin D to about 50. It was 50. And then I said, okay, maybe 5,000 is too much. I should dial it back. I don't want to do too much. And I dialed it back to about like 3,000. And in hindsight, that was a mistake because it dropped my vitamin D level to like 42. And the last time I checked, I went back to 5,000 a day. and the last time I checked several months ago, it was 44. So it's on the uptick. I think it might be a little slower than it was the first time. I don't know, but it's going in the right direction, and I'm not getting sick. Pardon me, I had lunch. A little bit of anyway, so yeah, that's vitamin D. Okay, DHA. I take an algae-based DHA, Nordic Naturals. It's in the triglyceride form. All their omegas, whether it's vegan, not vegan, is all in the triglyceride form. And I really believe in the brand. This video is not sponsored by anybody. Everything I get, I purchase myself. So just so you know. And I take about 1.5 grams of DHA per day and about 0.5 gram of EPA. I believe that up to 2 grams is safe daily. I also give it to my daughter, although she probably gets technically a little less because I have to puncture the capsule and put it in her little protein shake, and so she probably gets a little bit less of that, but it's that, you know, near that. And it's important for me for a couple reasons, but I don't have any more memory issues now that I've been doing that. Years ago, before I was vegan, I took fish oil, and my endocrinologist, who was concerned with my cholesterol, said, don't take it. It has cholesterol in it because it comes from fish. It's bad. So on his advice, I stopped taking it. And in hindsight, I believe that was a mistake because I started having memory issues. And again, this is before I went vegan, okay? I was having issues, short-term memory issues. And then sort of recently, you know, before I upped my DHA, which by the way, Stephen Gundry says you should be taking you should have at least 1 gram of DHA a day. I believe him, I support that, and I take that and a little more. I take as much as I can safely, which is what I believe I'm doing. But again, any supplements or anything like that, please talk to your doctor. I am not a doctor, but talk to your doctor, your personal doctor, the one that owes you a standard of care before you make any kind of big changes with that. And I was going to save my point of view stuff for the end, but I'm just going to say it right now. When it comes to doctors on YouTube, understand one thing. They don't owe you anything. They do not owe you a standard of care. They don't know you. And if something goes wrong, they have absolutely no responsibility to you. Hopefully, you have a good doctor that you trust. Your doctor may not agree with you on everything, but your doctor should be able to guide you safely through things. So your doctor owes you a standard of care. Your doctor has to spend a certain amount of time with you. Your doctor is responsible if he gives you bad advice. But none of these guys on YouTube, vegan, carnivore, everybody in between, they owe you nothing. So be aware of that before you take their advice. Really think about it. Do your own research. Because I can tell you, I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that I hear on YouTube. So that's my thought on that. Okay, so, all right. Along with starting the plant paradox, one of the big things you need to do is get an Instant Pot, which I did. I got it at the end of September, and it was probably like a couple months before I started using it. It was just sitting in a box in my room. I would look at it, it would look at me, and yeah, I had a couple of bad experiences using not an Instant Pot. Several years ago, like, I don't know, 7 or so years ago, I used ones that were just, you know, had a seal and like, it wasn't good. It blew a couple times. And if you've ever had an old-timey pressure cooker blow on you, then yeah, you know how dangerous they can be. But the Instant Pot is not like that. They have all these safety things, and you can't open it unless the pressure is down, and it won't pop. And I feel very comfortable with it. So I've been using it, and it's been great. So I did incorporate that. I worked up the courage to do it, and I hope to be posting more videos about it because it does make the vegetable foods I eat, some of them, safer and good to consume, which is very important when you want to avoid lectins as much as possible. I don't think you can totally avoid them, but there's certain things you can do to really lessen them to the point where your body's defenses can handle them. So pressure cooking is a big part of that. Okay. All right, so October 2018. Remember, I'm trying to go as linear as possible. My hernia got worse. Now, again, I'm going to preface this by saying I had my hernia. My hernia started happening like a year and a half, maybe 2, before I went vegan. Okay? My hernia was not caused by being vegan. But when it happened, I didn't realize what it was at first. And I mean, again, this is like, 5 years ago. And it slowly got worse. And then I took these herbs, these Chinese herbs, and there is a formula you can take that will literally raise your internal organs, and it takes the pressure off. And the first time I did it, I was an omnivore, and I gained a lot of weight taking them. I took them for 3 months. I gained like 10 pounds. This is part of the reason I was obese. I gained like 10 pounds a month taking these herbs. Interestingly, when I took them again when I was vegan, I did gain weight. So that was it. I thought that was interesting. But so anyway, so I kind of dealt with it with these herbs, and I kind of put it on the back burner, sort of silently hoping it would get better on its own, or maybe I could figure some way out to make it better. And that's not really a reality. When your fascia tears, if it's not in good shape, it doesn't magically repair itself. So anyway, so I hadn't really been thinking about it, but it had kind of been brewing for a few years. And I had just kind of also gotten over the foot thing, which, by the way, when I started the plant paradox after I injured my foot that badly, it was, by the way, the tendons. They did not disconnect. Thank God, because I waited like a couple weeks before I went to the doctor. I have a bad habit of doing that. Please don't do that. If you injure yourself really badly, go see your doctor or go to a walk-in clinic or something, but get it seen by a doctor. Because after that, I heard horror stories from friends and family about how they had like disconnected tendon injuries and what nightmares they were. And if you don't like pull it back within a couple of weeks, they could never pull it back. And oh my goodness. So yeah, don't do that. But anyway, I bring this all up because my tendons, my top of my right foot was kind of like the canary in the coal mine if I was eating something that was bad for me, like too many lectins or whatever. I mean, the top of my foot would light on fire, okay? And it's pretty good now. I don't really have those issues. I haven't had them for the longest time. But, where am I going with this? Oh yeah, okay, this is why I'm holding this one. I don't really get that pain anymore, but if I eat gluten, I'll get arthritis pain. And no tasty amount of food is worth that. So, okay, so getting back to the hernia, I just gotten over the foot thing, and I wasn't really paying attention to my hernia until in October when I was done in the bathroom and I was leaning over to pull up my clothes, and at the risk of oversharing, I'm just going to tell you this. I literally realized I had a couple of inches of intestinal rope hanging out the bottom of my crotch, just like at the very bottom. And that's when I realized this is really bad. I need to do something about this right now. So I ran to the edge of my bed and treated it like it was an incline table. I put my legs up and I shoved my intestines back in my body. And I probably spent the next 2 weeks after I bought a hernia belt making sure that my guts were in their place. I took my herbs again, things were lifted up, and I just kind of lived with that for almost a year. Again, at first hoping I could make it better. It did not get better on its own. It never does. You have to have it repaired. So anyway, one thing I did actually was able to discern, because I had this unusual condition of being able to feel a part of my body that I didn't normally feel. I can tell you this. I toned back on the raw salads. I didn't eat a ton of raw salads, because if I ate a ton of raw, like baby greens, which I love baby greens, I do, and baby bok choy and all that, I really do like them a lot. However, when I ate too much of it, I could feel my like intestine, because I could like feel it, right? It would get like expanded and hard. Like it felt like there was a hose inside my body, like right there. Like I could feel it. And it felt like a garden hose, like it was that wide and that kind of a resistance. But if I ate cooked vegetables, or I ate fermented vegetables, like my favorite mother-in-law's white kimchi, white vegan kimchi, which I love that so much, it didn't expand like that. So consequently, I did not eat a lot of raw anything, and I kept it to either very fermented or cooked a lot. So that's what I learned. That's what my hernia taught me. Yeah. Anyway. Okay, come November 2018, my teeth got sensitive. I know. You're thinking, that's because you're getting no K2. Yeah, you're probably right. That's probably because I wasn't getting any K2. However, contrary to popular belief in some circles on YouTube, you actually can supplement it quite well, effectively, from a vegan source. On my Facebook page, I have mentioned a gentleman named Kiran Krishnan, and he is a big part of Microbiome Labs. They have excellent supplements regarding K2 and Bacillus endospores, which I'm going to talk about more. It's really been great for me. And I'll probably link like a couple of things from him in my, he's all over YouTube. So I'll probably link, he gave one big talk about K2 that was really cool. And I'll link it in my description box, as well as other things. But I mean, literally, if you do a search for him, you'll come up with so many videos. In every video, there's like something new to learn. It's mostly on the microbiome. But it's just, he really knows what he's talking about. So yes, you can supplement K2. It is the MK7 form, because I believe there is the MK4 form of supplement is synthetic, and plus it just doesn't last as long. So anyway, that supplement has worked really well for me. I'll link it in the description. Because I know plenty of omnivores that have problems with their bones and their teeth. So it's not just a vegan issue. I think it's an everybody issue. And as you get older, you know, it becomes more apparent. When you're in your 20s and your 30s, it's not a big deal. But when you get older, I mean, people start having issues with their jaw. It's like they get osteoporosis in their jaw, and you don't want to get that. Anyway, yeah, and my teeth were getting a little transparent too. And I know this because one of my teeth, it kind of sticks out a funny way. So I can see a part of it that is normally below the gum line, this one tooth, okay? And that part was getting really transparent. And so I'm thinking, well, if it's like that for my one tooth, it's probably like that for all my teeth. But now that I've been supplementing seriously for, since November, it's almost all better. So it can come back, and it can come back with supplementation. And I'm not going to convince you, if you are really anti-supplementation, I'm not going to try to convince you that it's good or you should change or whatever. But I'll tell you this. I don't think there's no shame in it. I don't think there's any shame in it. I can measure what I take and I can see results. And that says something. So, all right. Now, also getting back to what I was saying about the keystone endospores. So, Stephen Gundry, Plant Paradox, he is very much into the microbiome. And it's really important for your health, I believe. And this same lab that does the K2, they also do Bacillus endospores. And they've been really, really great for me. And interestingly, one of the keystone species in there that is like it was created at this university, I think in England, I can't remember, along with microbiome labs. It actually produces carotenoids. So you can these things actually produce vitamins, and they produce it after your, the whole stomach digestion thing is just down the road from that. So I think that's really cool. So probably one of the reasons why my eyesight is so good at night. Yes, I do wear contacts. I've had to have vision correction since I was 15. However, my night vision has never been better. And as long as I'm on this topic again, when it comes to your microbiome, or my microbiome, everybody's microbiome, this whole issue of whether vegetables are natural or man-made, I honestly think is irrelevant. And here's why. If your microbiome can eat it, it's good. And I can tell you, my microbiome loves the stuff. So I honestly think that this whole thing that these vegetables are man-made, therefore they're useless. No. Your gut buddies love them. They need them, and you should be eating them. So that's my viewpoint. You're not going to change me on it. If you don't want to eat your vegetables because, you think that it does more harm than good, that's your choice. It's your body, your choice. I'm just presenting my story. I won't argue with you. Okay, what do I got next here? Oh, yeah. Okay, January 2019. I found out I was positive for the Alzheimer's gene. I have one APOE3 and one 4. So I was already avoiding WGA, wheat germ agglutinin, from reading the Plant Paradox and how bad of a lectin it is. And if you don't know, basically this particular lectin, it will mimic insulin. It will attach itself into the docking ports, the insulin docking ports of your cells. It will attach to a fat cell and keep it open for like ever. It's like, it's like a rave that never stops. It will attach to your muscle cells and close the shop and say, nope, you don't get to come in here. So your muscles atrophy, your fat increases, and it will attach to your neurons. And it will deny entry to the food that it needs, and it helps Alzheimer's along. So, yeah, a huge avoider of that. And personally, I'm going to have nothing left for my viewpoint section at the end. When I see carnivores or, you know, people that used to be vegan and then they stop eating vegetables and then they go this total, you know, carnivore way. That's your choice. But then when I see these same people going back and eating grains, I'm shocked, because from where I'm standing, it's like, you know what? That's one of the few things you got right. What are you doing? What are you doing? It's like, it's making you fat. It's making you sick. It's like, oh, you know, I'm still healing. It's like, no, cut the grains out. Just cut them out right now. I'm vegan and I don't eat grains. I mean, okay, technically, if I have some rice, that's a grain. But okay, I don't eat gluten, and for the most part, I don't eat grains. Almost no grains. So, consider sweet potatoes instead. I don't know. Okay, and supplementing. There's a really good book called The End of Alzheimer's by Dale Bredesen. I'm big on audiobooks. I listened to it one time. It was a good book. I started actually listening to it a second time, but it's a little, you know, when you know you're positive for it, it's a little heavy to listen to. So I'm, you know, incorporating the supplements and going to get back to it. But for anybody that knows they're APOE4 positive, you should read this book. This guy is one of the few people, if the only person, that is getting results by reversing Alzheimer's, because I can guarantee you nobody you know has ever recovered from Alzheimer's. It's really bad. Okay, so now we're up to February of this year. February. I read another book. It's a really good book. This guy who wrote this book, he wrote a good book on fat and he wrote a good book on salt. I'm going to link them below. But anyway, I started eating more sea salt, and my circulation got better. I noticed when I would eat like salty soups that my circulation, I'd be really hydrated. Like if I needed to give blood or something like that, it was like, bam, no problem. Also, the color of my face changed. Oh, I mean, I think it's going to be a tradition when I do these vegan updates that I don't wear any makeup, just so people won't say I'm trying to hide something. But also, I have no idea what my foundation color would be right now, because like a month ago I went to go put some on and it was totally lighter than my actual skin. It used to match my skin tone, and now it's so much more ivory than what I am now. I'm not as afraid of the sun anymore, so also I'm out in the sun a little more. But yeah, I cannot say enough good things about increasing the salt in your diet. And nobody feels this way, but I feel this way. Yeah, increasing the salt in your diet, I mean, unless you're metabolically damaged and you know it will hurt you. Again, talk to your doctor. I'm not a doctor. But it's really been great for me. So I think that it can be really good for you too. It's something worth exploring. Don't be afraid of it. There is a publication bias against salt, and like everybody seems to be afraid of it, or they just think there's nothing good from it. But the only reason I will get reduced salt anything like broth is so that I can add my own iodized salt back in, my own iodized sea salt. So, yeah. Okay. So, I already told you I was 50. In February, I got my first stress-triggered hot flash. It was awful. I got it walking out the door to my daughter's IEP. I don't like dealing with the district. It's very stressful. And I got my first hot flash. And so in the next year and a half, before my next update, I need to kind of decide what I'm going to do as far as how I deal with that. Some women do hormones. Some women don't do hormones. I heard there's a woman in Santa Barbara that has some kind of treatment where you always get your period, no matter how old you get. Like if you're 70, you'll still get it. I don't know about that. So one of the things I'll be talking about next time. Okay. So told you about the hernia. Last April, I was supposed to have surgery for it, but I did get a cough. It was a very bad cough, and this was like, I hadn't gotten sick in like 10 months, but it was stress triggered. You know, I mean, I'm not going to go into like methylation SNPs and multifactorial disease. That's another topic for another time. But when you have issues like that with your methylation and you undergo a huge stressful event, it can make you ill, which is what happened. I went through something very stressful, and I got sick for weeks with a really bad cough. It was like everybody was, okay, I don't want to say everybody, but a lot of people were getting this cough, and it was a horrible cough. So it put my surgery on the back burner, but I did get blood work. I got the blood work like a day or two before I got sick. And at the time, in April, my LDL was 110. And I did have them check for thyroid antibodies. And even though my consumption of goitrogens was up, my thyroid antibodies were way down. I have had thyroid issues, Hashimoto's disease, for many, many years. I don't think I talked about it before, but years ago when they would test me, when they first found out, and they being my doctor, when I was tested, they keep testing you to see if the levels of your antibodies are increasing. And it got to the point where there were so many of them, they just stopped testing. Like you get into the like thousands and thousands, and then they just stopped testing. Well, when I tested in April, my antibodies were down to like less than 100. So I'm eating way more goitrogenic vegetables, and my thyroid antibodies are down. So I don't think it's the vegetables. I think it was the wheat. I do. I posted an article several months ago about like, was it the broccoli or the bagel that's making your thyroid sick? It's an interesting article. If you're interested, and it's worth your time. I might link it down below anyway in the box. Okay, so what else happened in April? So this was an issue. The skin on my hands started turning black. Like my skin got really dry and rough, and literally when my like my cuticles, they were coming in black and like dead. And I was like, what is going on? You know, I mean, I'm just like, I'm, you know, humming along in my veganism, and this happens, and I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, maybe it's a B vitamin deficiency. So I started increasing my B vitamin complex, and I started taking folinic acid. And so I'm getting like all the complexes. And it's still an issue. And then I ran out of my protein powder, which is, it's fermented protein powder, but it's sprouted. And if you've read The Plant Paradox, then you know sprouted, the amount of lectins in sprouted things is so much worse than like just the regular level of lectins when something's not sprouted. So it like takes it from really bad to like, don't do this because it'll like kill you faster level. But I thought, well, it's fermented, so that should be fine. It was not fine. It was not fine. So so I ran out of this particular vegan protein powder that was sprouted and fermented, and my hands started getting better. So that was a huge lesson for me. I will not eat sprouted anything anymore. No more sprouts. No. Yeah, that's, it was really bad. It was really, really bad. Not that my hands are perfect now, but they are so much better. But I will say this. Also, as another instance where I fell backwards into some knowledge, all those B vitamins I took, they cleared up my foot fungus, which again I had for years, well before I was vegan, but I noticed that the fungus on my feet was significantly reduced and my nails looked better. So if you have issues with foot fungus and you have issues with nail fungus, you might want to try, after you talk to your doctor, upping your B vitamins. You might want to try that. Yeah, it's been working for me and I'm really happy. I'm happy feet. So now, because I've improved my diet and supplemented, my feet don't hurt. I don't have the pain in my feet and the fungus is like almost all gone away. So I'm like, I've got happy feet now, pretty much. That's good. Okay. All right, so I talked about that. Okay, so in June, so now we're getting, we're ramping up to modern day here. So in June of 2019, I remember my surgery was put off because I had the cough. So it didn't happen in April. I got the blood tests for it, but it didn't happen. It happened at the end of June. A couple weeks before I went to go get blood tested again, because it was too long to use the old test results. About 2 weeks before I went to go get more blood tests, I started using iodized sea salt. Iodized sea salt, not the real salt anymore, but the Morton's iodized sea salt. And so I got my blood test in and my LDL went down 12 points. It literally went down from 110 to 98 from like 2 weeks. I believe it's from the 2 weeks of iodized sea salt eating, which is incredible to me. And I'm really happy because it's under 100. I don't want it to really get any lower than that because I think cholesterol is really important. So yeah, that made a huge difference. So again, if you're up for eating salt, the only one I'm going to recommend now or put in my recipes is the Morton's iodized sea salt. I mean, if you have an iodized sea salt or just iodized salt, anything, but you need the iodine. You need iodine in your life. It's important. But again, talk with your doctor. So, okay. Now also with those blood tests, I wanted to make sure that I was getting the right amount of B vitamins and that my body was able to use them. And if you take a B complex with biotin in it, it can throw off your test results. So if you really want to know if your B level, your B12 level is enough, if it's your body's using it, you need to have your methylmalonic acid tested. Because what winds up happening is that if you don't have enough B12, then methylmalonic acid builds up and it damages your nerves, and that's how you get the nerve damage, and it can be irreversible. It's very bad. So I had my methylmalonic acid tested and it was smack dab in the middle of the normal range. So it was doing good. I also wanted to get my homocysteine tested and I had the blood drawn for both of it, but the results never came back. I mean, it's like it fell into the void somewhere. I don't know. And that would be, in addition to the methylmalonic acid, testing for homocysteine would tell me if I was getting enough folate. And because I didn't get that results back, I looked at my, like the size of my blood cells and how many there were, pardon me. And they were normal size. If you don't get enough folate, then what winds up happening is that your blood cells get really bigger in anticipation of splitting, but they don't have enough DNA to split and make two cells because you need folate for DNA replication. So for everybody thinks that you don't need plants. No, you really do need plants. And it's actually a different pathway then what winds up happening with the methylfolate. So I also take folinic acid because that's what you need to kind of go off and help make that happen with the DNA. But anyway, so my blood looked good. So I'm pretty confident that I'm getting enough folate. So my methylmalonic acid was good. My blood cells looked healthy. So even though I didn't get the homocysteine, I'm pretty sure that I'm good in that area. Okay. So very end of June, I had the hernia surgery. It went well. However, it took longer than it was supposed to because there was a scar tissue from like 15 years prior, a surgery I had. I had had a cyst 15 years prior. It was like the size of a small handball, deflated. It was infected. And I told the doc, I said, there may be some kind of leftover from that. And sure enough, there was, but it was a small thing that was benign. It was fine. So he repaired my hernia. I got reinforced. I got the mesh, and I got that extra stuff taken out. However, what I didn't realize is that they gave me Ancef intravenously, which is a pretty strong antibiotic, and I didn't realize it really destroyed my microbiome. So I had, you know, like 10 months or so of really heavy hitting on the Bacillus endospores and eating all these different foods and, you know, just having a really good digestion to having a horrible digestion. So for people that say I had really bad gas or, you know, I had all these digestion issues trying to go vegan, I can totally empathize with you because I didn't realize they gave me antibiotics. I thought maybe this was just some kind of residual from the anesthesia or something. I didn't know. It's been like 15 years since I had surgery. I don't know. Oh, and by the way, my insides looked just fine. They were not gray. I asked the doc. So yeah, it destroyed my microbiome. And, okay, it did give me horrible gas. And like, the smell was bad. Like, if the smell of your gas is bad, you're not digesting anything. You need to take spores, which is what I wound up doing. Once I realized what was happening, you know, after like a week and a half of this, I'm like, I think maybe they gave me antibiotics. And when I went to my follow-up, I'm like, did you give me antibiotics, doc? And he's like, yeah, this is what we gave you. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. So when I started taking like a super good supplement, every meal, it after a few weeks, it got under control. And now it's been a few months and it's so much better. But it takes time. It takes time to rebuild because, I mean, it was so bad. I mean, literally, I can't remember a time when I had gas that bad. I don't know if I ever had gas that bad. I literally had gas where it was like, it was pushing up into my diaphragm and it was so painful. So I get it. I get when people go through that. And I can understand if someone says that they went through that for years, why they couldn't do it anymore. However, it's not really something you can cure on your own. You need to bring those you know, the good bacteria back into your life, back into your digestion. It's not just going to happen, you know, over a certain amount of time. And I think that people that feel like they're still healing from veganism, you know, they really need to expand their microbiome. That's just my thought on the matter. I'm not telling you what to do, but, you know, I have the experience of having a good digestion, then having a whole kick through it and repairing it in a pretty quick amount of time with the right supplements. Yeah. Okay. I just want to say this real quick before I forget. Okay. Keto does not equal eye bags. More point of view. So I was, normally I sleep a little elevated, okay? I sleep a little elevated and I don't have issues with eye bags. Then I started sleep, I thought, okay, I can like sleep on my back or sleep on my side. And then I didn't put 2 and 2 together. The day after, I started getting a little bit of puffiness. I'm like, oh, that's fine. Okay, so then I slept that way again the next night, and I was like, now I was hitting like, starting to like get into Garfield territory, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting keto eyes. What's happening? I'm like, wait a minute, no. I'm not in ketosis. I'm not a carnivore. These aren't keto eyes. This is like gravity not working for me. I need to go back to sleeping elevated, and sure enough, when you use gravity as your friend, it will, the stuff will not pool and collect underneath your eyes. So if you think you have, you know, puffy eyes and you shouldn't, try sleeping elevated. You know, after you talk to your doctor. I don't know. Anyway, okay, so currently, I've lost a little bit more weight. I was about 155 for many, many months after I did that initial quick weight loss after the plant paradox. And I have lost about 3 more pounds. And I am watching that because I think now that I've been getting a lot more iodine for the last few months, I think actually my thyroid might be starting to work, and I might need to dial back my thyroid medication. Because I know my antibodies are down, and I've really reduced my lectins, and so the extra iodine might be the last piece of the puzzle. You know, so I'm gonna go back and get that checked, because I don't want to be taking too much thyroid hormone. That will muscle waste me, and that's not because of my diet. So anyway. Okay, so now I'm getting to the viewpoint section. I've already talked about I'm pro supplements and pro meds if you need to take them. There's no shame in taking meds. There's no shame in taking supplements that help your mood. I don't personally take CBD oil, but I've been giving it to my daughter, and it's had pretty good results. It's been about a month now. I'm probably going to do a separate video on CBD oil and autism and anxiety reduction in general and help with sleep. And I think a lot of people will be interested in that. I think it'll be helpful. So I'm planning on doing that. I love coffee and dark chocolate. I don't do liver cleanses. I don't do shakes and smoothies in the morning. I mean, I do a little bit of protein, like hemp powder, in some carrot juice. But it's not like I do the bananas and the veggies and the spirulina. I don't do any of that. I don't take spirulina. I drink coffee. I have an espresso machine. I very much enjoy it. And even though I haven't had dark chocolate in a while, I do enjoy the occasional dark chocolate. I love it. I'm pro methylation support and anti-cleanse. I don't think people should be doing all kinds of cleanses and detoxes. It's your body, if it's working right, does it on its own, but that's if your methylation cycle is working, which I guess I'm just gonna have to do a separate video on. Oh yeah, let's talk about spices. Spices are wonderful. In case you've forgotten your history or you slept through that class or ditched it, there were wars over these things. I think the spice wars lasted like 60 years. And I seriously doubt anybody that fought in the spice wars was vegan. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about cholesterol. I mentioned the author of The End of Alzheimer's, the book, Dale Bredesen. He doesn't think your cholesterol should get below 150 or your brain starts shrinking, which I agree with. Okay, I wasn't able to find the actual source for this. I read it in 2 different articles. The Framingham study, the long-standing multi-generational heart disease study. One of the things they found out, and if anybody can find out where this emanates from, please, please, please post it in the comment section. But one of the things they found that they weren't looking for was that people in this study that naturally had abnormally low cholesterol, which I don't know what that would be, what would be considered abnormally low cholesterol, they had a higher rate of cancer. And these are people that never touched a statin in their life. It was just, that was their genetics. And then there's Nathan Pritikin. Dr. Greger uses him as basically as a health goal. And I get why. You know, his grandmother was at death's door, and because of the fat restricted diet that she got put on, I mean, she was around for many more years. I mean, it's literally, he brought her back from the almost dead. And that, I'm sure, made a huge impression on him as a kid. But that's only half the story. I was shocked, literally, that I was watching Frank DeFano's channel, and they were talking about Nathan Pritikin and how he died of cancer. Well, actually, he killed himself because he had been fighting cancer for like, I don't know, a couple decades maybe. And I had to learn about that from Carnivore Channel. No, I don't like getting half the story. And it's almost like anybody who has a certain audience, it's like they omit things. And that's almost lying. It's lying by omission. When I see Dr. Greger show a picture of Nathan Pritikin dashing, okay? I mean, literally, the dashing Nathan Pritikin. It doesn't tell you the full story. And the full story was, he wasn't a healthy man. Okay, yeah, his pipes were clean. Good for him. You know, that's nice. But you have to balance the risk for heart disease with your risk for cancer. And you need cholesterol. We, as human beings, no matter what your diet is, we do need cholesterol. I'm a firm believer we can make enough cholesterol on our own. You don't have to agree with me. I'm not here to convince people that don't agree. That's fine. I'm just telling you what I believe. Remember, this video is about me, not about you. It's about me. And I believe that you can make it. You make it using saturated fat. And I seem to excel at that. But everybody needs it. And don't be afraid of telling the whole truth. All right. I'm getting down to the last 3 cards here. Okay. So let's talk about plant-based protein. One of the 4 macros. Plant-based protein is more geared toward longevity, not growth. I am a 50-year-old woman who is going to the next phase of her life, if you know what I mean. And I want to eat for longevity. I'm not going to have any more kids. I don't want to grow any more cysts in my body. But I do want to be able to grow my hair and have wound repair and, you know, not worry about being able to heal if I, you know, rip something or whatever. So you need enough growth, but, you know, I am one of those people that I want to keep my IGF-1 low. I don't know what the level is, but I know plant-based, it's more geared to a low IGF-1. So that's going to be something, again, in the next year and a half before my next update, that I really get to know what whole foods, plant-based whole foods that I can eat that will really promote a good balance for the amino acids I take in, and keeping it more to the longevity side than the growth side, because I really need to be around for a long time. I mean, I want to be around a long time, everybody does, but I have a disabled child, and I need to be around. So veganism works for me at 50. You know, I've been vegan for about 3.5 years. I was obese. I'm not anymore. I'm in a healthy, normal BMI range. Technically, I could lose more than 10 pounds. I could probably lose like 12 more pounds and still be normal, but that on the absolute side of normal. I don't want to get to the absolute side of normal. I kind of want to stay where I am. I think where I am is good. Yeah. Oh, and, I touched on my little carrot juice thing. I do think beta carotene is just fine to meet your vitamin A needs. And in case you didn't realize it, because some people seem to leave it out of most of when they present this information, is that unless you're eating a cow liver, the kind of vitamin A you're getting is beta carotene. You're getting beta carotene like in every other cut of meat in that cow, except for the liver. So, true, it's packaged with fat, which you need to absorb, but you can add fat to your little carrot juice protein smoothie like I do and be a happy camper and have excellent night vision. Anyway, okay, so my view on veganism and how it's changed. I want to tell you a story about 5-year-old me and the kid that wasn't nice. The older kid that wasn't nice. So when I was 5 years old, I was standing around at daycare, and this young boy who was probably like 9 or 10, definitely old enough to know better and know what he was doing, but he looked at me and he said, "Hey kid, there ain't no Santa Claus." And of course, at 5 years old, I was mildly devastated. I was shocked. I kind of didn't know what to do. Someone had come out and told me that. I couldn't believe anybody said that. What? But I think in the back of my mind, I knew it was true. So when I went home that day, I told my dad, there ain't no Santa Claus. I'm bringing this up because that's kind of how my view on veganism has changed. I literally thought I was going to die 3.5 years ago. I thought if I didn't change my diet right now, that's it. This is my last, you wake up with a bowling ball in your chest, invisible bowling ball, and it's serious, and you better take it serious. I had nothing but a good experience with veganism. It's been really good for me. And it was for my condition that my health was in and my weight and, needing to clean up my diet. Oh, by the way, I hadn't had alcohol for 7 years at that point. I haven't had a drop of alcohol for 10 years at this point now, but so I wasn't drinking and I didn't smoke. But it's been really good for me. And so I wanted to share it with everybody. And then I started seeing these videos of people that had a very hard time with veganism or their health, was hurt by it. And at first I was like, what's going on? How can this be happening? And I didn't want to believe it at first. But then I realized, well, this is their truth. And now I feel bad for them. So I try to be responsible with my veganism. And, it's not just about the diet, obviously. It's about treating animals with respect. And, I understand that and having it be throughout your whole lifestyle. But know this, and I'm talking specifically to vegans here right now, you may be the only documentary on veganism that anybody ever watches. So you owe it to yourself and I guess the community to make good health choices. People can say it's not about food, it's not about health, it's only about the animals, and that's your choice. But like I said, you may be the only documentary on veganism anybody ever watches. So think about that when you make your food choices. And don't be afraid to listen to things that challenge you. It's uncomfortable at first. It's uncomfortable to listen to things that challenge you. But it's important. Listen to it and then reason on it. I listen to things that make me uncomfortable all the time or I disagree with, but I know why I'm disagreeing with it now. I can say, okay, I disagree with that because of this reason, or maybe I don't know about that, I'm gonna have to do more research, or maybe it's true for me or for them, but not for everybody. So just don't be afraid of knowledge, and keep learning. I already talked about that. Okay, last thing I want to mention, and this is really, I think, important and often ignored. I want to talk about the fourth macro, which is nucleotides. It's actually, you have your proteins and you have your carbohydrates and you have your fats, and then you have your nucleotides. And eating enough of those is important. I'm still learning about it. It's not a lot of people are talking about it. Actually, if it wasn't for Amy Yasko bringing it up, I probably still wouldn't know about it. But this is really important. If you aren't familiar with them, basically, nucleotides, it's what makes up your DNA and your RNA. And you need that stuff to be able to make the proteins that make you healthy and your hormones and all this stuff. So if you're not eating enough, it can significantly reduce your immune system and it causes all kinds of problems. They have Amy Yasko and another doctor that's actually local here in LA. They have a website where they did like an online book about feel-good nucleotides. I'll link that. But Stephen Gundry, the author of The Plant Paradox, he talks about the village, I think it's of Acciaroli. It's in Italy, and they don't eat pasta, but they eat sardines. I think it's sardines fried in olive oil, and lentils. And I don't think it's any coincidence that those two dishes are some of the most concentrated in nucleotides that you can eat. They're very, very important, and so I encourage you to do more research about including those in your diet, because not having those can, it's, I think you need them for longevity. I really do. So anyway, that's about it. I didn't know. I thought I was going to be shorter with the cards, keeping me on point, but has been a year and a half. So, and look, I came to the end of this without one jump cut again. So, see you at 5. Hope we're both happy and healthy. And take care. Bye-bye.